Today I back my little privet that's been growing pretty well in this little blue pot. This tree was started from a cutting as a tiny twig, so it's come a long way. Normally this tree is extremely aggressive and needs a few prunes throughout the season, but last summer it didn't really do much, so there's not a lot of change here. I pruned it after the initial spring growth and that was about it. I do like this tree, it's slowly taking shape. The branch structure isn't too great, but it was once a twig, so what I've got now is pretty awesome in comparison. I do think everything needs pulled down. A lot of the branches tend to flow upwards, which isn't a bad thing. They just seem to be doing that at a too strong an angle for my liking. Some of the growth can have quite sharp angles. There's a few that are close to 90 degrees, which looks a bit weird, but it's not too bad. I don't mind it, it's better than everything being long and straight and boring. By October it will stop growing, so you can really see there was not a lot of growth last year. This tree is supposed to be an evergreen, but it's been losing its leaves in recent years, so we'll have to see what it does now. I have been growing this tree inside, but really it should be outside, so it needs to go in the shed over winter to get some cold exposure, keep it healthy, which is what I did at the start of December. I could possibly put it directly outside. Privet is pretty tough, but I have a feeling its roots will not have hardened off inside, so I don't want to risk exposing it to frost. So the shed is a good spot as it's pretty cold, but it's also protected. You can see here, just before I put it outside, that some of the leaves are changing colour. They just sort of turn a bit yellow and drop off, it's nothing fancy. And then at the end of February I brought it back inside, and as you can see, it's lost all its leaves. You can get a good look at the structure. You can see it's pretty messy and overcrowded. So I just pruned it back and removed anything I didn't need. And I was left with this. Really it needs to be wired here too, but I just left that for another day. There's still a lot of work needed, but it's getting there. Now all it has to do is wake up. There's still nothing happening in March, but that's fine, as a few weeks later it bursts into life. So you can see here that all the buds are swelling and actually starting to open, which means it's time for a repot. It's in a small pot, so I'm expecting to be full of roots. But for now, let's enjoy the moss. The soil is mounded up quite high, but we'll see in a minute if that's soil or moss. I started by just removing and scraping it all off. So you can see here the soil line is more high soil than thick moss. That'll be because I piled the soil up like that, as well as the roots in the pots having pushed it up a bit too. I then just got rid of the rest of it and gave the trunk a brush too, as some moss has started to creep up on that as well too. I tried to see if it'd pop out, but no, it's stuck in there. I just start trying to rake away some soil. I can usually loosen up the edges enough. But no, it's pretty stuck in there. So I went and got the knife and just pushed it around the edge, which usually enough to loosen things up. And as you can see, I finally managed to lever it out, and it popped out. And as you can see, it's very much a solid root ball. It may not have put on much top growth last year, but the roots were certainly doing its thing. I then just tried to loosen everything up and untangle it, and get rid of all the soil, which always takes ages. but after a while I was left with this. It's a pretty good root ball. Of course, a lot of this is too long and needs pruned back, but overall it's not too bad. The root flare is coming along nicely. I hope that keeps developing. I then just pruned everything back, and that was kind of it. It didn't need too much work, just a trim and a tidy up. So this is what I was left with. There's no complaints. And then just put it back in the same pot. It's doing fine in there for now, so we're going to stay in there until I get some more space for a bigger pot. And by April, you can see it's totally exploded with growth, which is exactly what you want to see when there's not much action last season. I left it for now and decided to prune it in May, but of course I didn't film a before and after. You just have to look at the after, and trust me, it was really out of control beforehand. And here we are now, where it's already shot back some new growth. So I imagine I'll be pruning it again pretty soon. Hopefully it keeps this up for the rest of the year. Thanks for watching, see you next time.